listener with a T-shirt or the open collar or the regular tie, that's 3 other categories than mine, to be the smartest guy with the bow tie. And that's a very small group of people. And by God's providence and arrangements and a lot of hard work, I'm the smartest guy with the bow tie. You can be the smartest in your category. And I do thank you for joining me today here at Nooga Radio. We're brought to you by Nooganomics.com. And also Clay Whitaker, the attorney who's helping our friend Hanson Melvin make his claim against city government and against former officer David Campbell in his effective kidnapping and abuse in his arrest. And also, our argument is loving your neighbor and buying local. And the whole buying local argument is one that you think somehow I have forgotten about. You think that because we're talking about Miranda rights and police departments and mayoral offices and the like, that somehow I have forgotten our main argument. Our main argument: love your neighbor and buy local. And I understand there are some faults with the idea of local economy. It has some weaknesses. It shares in some regards the nationalist argument that Donald Trump made before the United Nations. He was arguing for salvation by the state, effectively, the power and sovereignty of the nation state, and saying that big is better and corporate is better, and we are to unite in this abstraction of 300 million people in this giant corporation that's enslaved us effectively. Well, the same prejudice that informs his argument in some way informs mine, and I admit that. And I can't avoid it. But what I want you to do, my listener, is to think that you're here in God's providence. You're not here by mistake, and you have a duty to make Chattanooga your home. As long as you're here, until you move on, you need to make Chattanooga your home and identify with it. And the goal of my program is identification, to identify with and feel that you belong here, and actually to belong here. And part of the means of doing that, the process of identifying and belonging, is connecting with people, and connecting with a group of people about which you know very little. That would be the local farmer. Now, I have with me here Michelle Reneau. She runs Weekly Fig, which is online at weeklyfig, F-I-G, weeklyfig.com. She's the co-founder, and it is an effort in community-supported agriculture. Michelle is a stay-at-home mom. She formerly was in the high life in a Carolina town in the real estate world, but she's a stay-at-home mom now with 3 children, ages 3, 5, and 7. She began Weekly Fig as an effort to connect you with farmers and to connect your dining experience with the riches of unimpeded, untrammeled, unmolested earth. In 2016, her husband Chris is formerly a nuclear man in the Navy. He's 11 years. And Michelle, she wants me to. She wasn't sure how to put this, but she's a kind of a radical. Okay, she's a home birth mom, and her last 2 children were born in a house in Hickson. And she believes in local economy in many ways. And so we're going to hear now about how she got involved in the sort of the food side of local economy. Well, Michelle, let me just ask you, if my listener and I are for local economy and want to be enriched by it and to help enrich it, is really the food area, is that the leading point of local economy in your mind?
I think it's a great way to get involved in the local economy. There's certainly a lot of ways to participate in Chattanooga. The food in Tennessee, what I found interesting when I started researching food was that Tennessee's #1 productive industry is agricultural. But do you know that we do not buy most of the food that's grown here? It actually gets sent out of state. And so can you imagine what impact we would have if we could purchase the food that is grown right here in our community, in our state, and what it would do for our local economy? The Ochos group at the UTC, I think it was UTC Knoxville, did a study back in, it's probably been 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 years. And they found out that if every Chattanoogan purchased just 5% of their food budget in local food, we would increase our local economy by $100 million. Imagine what that impact would look like on our local economy. How much more money we would have for schools and roads and infrastructure and all these other great things we want to do in Chattanooga. Purchasing local food is a great way to make an impact in our community.
Well, I'm holding up for our viewer on YouTube and our viewer on Facebook that, by the way, those on Facebook, it's Nooga Radio. I'm holding up here, Michelle, two sweet potatoes. Is that right?
It is.
Say something about where these came from.
This is actually a purple sweet potato. The flesh is actually purple. So it's a really unique potato that you're not going to get in the store. And one of the things that we enjoy about Weekly Fig is planning our produce with farmers to get items that you can't get in a grocery store. This sweet potato is actually much higher in antioxidants than you're going to get out of your regular sweet potato, which is still really good for you. But amp that up a little bit and try a purple sweet potato. It tastes very similar to a regular sweet potato. It has a slightly light floral taste to it as well. But it's one of the beauties of buying local food is you get to try things that you don't get in a grocery store.
Is there just one farmer who produces this?
We actually have 8 to 12 farmers over the course of the year that we work with. In the fall, every farmer, they like to specialize in what they can do well. And we don't want a farmer trying to grow sweet potatoes if they've got rock hard ground. You really have to have someone who has really worked the soil well in order to grow potatoes. But these potatoes actually came from some Mennonite farmers in Englewood, Tennessee. They are deeply committed to organic, sustainable methods, mostly because of their religion. They really believe, and we believe also, that we should eat food the way God created. And that means without chemicals, where the ground is truly nurtured and enriched so that it produces a product that is nutrient dense on the other side so that we can eat it and consume it and also be healthy.
Well, how would my listener get these two items in my hand right now in front of our YouTube and Facebook listener? How would he get these things in his basket? Would that basket be a weekly basket, a monthly basket? How many sweet potatoes might be involved in that or included in that delivery?
Yeah. So the way that Weekly Figs works is we are essentially a private buying club. And when you sign up, there is an annual fee, and then you get to choose a vegetable box. We have 4 different sizes. So unlike community supported agriculture, you kind of get usually one size, or maybe 2 sizes, large and larger. And we found that to be a problem for a lot of smaller families. So we offered a smaller and a smaller box, small, medium box. And each week we plan the boxes based on what's available in our local market. So from week to week, that's going to vary. We try to give you variations so that you get the opportunity to try different things as well. And if you want additional items, let's say you try these sweet potatoes and you love them, we also have an add-on market where you can buy your vegetables and then you can go online and also add additional potatoes. So in a small box, like a seed box, you would get about a pound of potatoes because that's typically what somebody would consume in a week. If you decide you love these sweet potatoes or any other item in our market, you can add on the extra so you can stow them up or you can be able to consume extra during the week.
And how much money commitment does my listener, if he and his wife and family want to take part in Weekly Food, is there a minimum commitment or a maximum commitment?
So for free delivery, we do ask that your minimum order is $35, which seems fairly simple if you're going to be buying your basic items. We not only have vegetables, we have a ton of other local items like bread and eggs and USDA meats that are made that are grown and properly raised right here in Chattanooga, where the beef is actually grass-fed and grass-finished. We have items like local coffee. We have some from Mad Priest.
I'm holding up the bag here for our viewer.
Yep,
it's Mad Priest Coffee Roasters, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it says Laos.
Yeah. So what I love what we love about Mad Priest is that this is a local guy. They're roasting coffee locally. Everything is fresh to order. So you're not going to get a bag of coffee that's been sitting on the shelves for a month because it was roasted however long ago. And Mad Priest also has a wonderful mission. They actually support refugees. They hire refugees that are coming to the Chattanooga area, which helps them learn the language and become integrated into our community and have jobs to be able to contribute back. So they're a great organization. We also have Barley Bones. This is another local company. They make dog bones that are really healthy. They have lots of different options like grain-free options, things that really when you give them to your dog, I know for me, I care about my little people, my children, as much as I do my animals, and we want to feed them good food too.
You mentioned grain-free. Now, is grain-free somehow connected with grass-fed? When you mentioned grass-fed, touching on beef that Weekly Fig provides, what's the story about grain and grass?
Well,
Michelle Reneau.
Well, when we're talking about dog treats, one of the things that people might not realize is that dogs have lots of allergies. And I know for myself, we found out that when we took grains out of our dogs' dog food, the food that they had, and we went to a grain-free food, all of their allergies went away. And so grains are actually, for a lot of people, inflammatory, and they cause reactions in our body that kind of give us some sort of allergic response or some sort of uncomfortableness. It could be a digestion issue or it could be arthritis. So it's something to pay attention to. we believe that when it comes to our meats, that meat should be raised a certain way. And for example, cows, they are meant to only eat grass. They do not need a lick of grain to survive. But the reason why in a conventional operation they get grains is because those grains bulk up the animal quicker, and it really gives them a nice marbling, that fat that kind of goes throughout the animal. And it costs them less money to feed that animal when they can raise it for a short period of time on grass and then feed the grains afterwards. It produces a nice flavor for a lot of people. But if you can get acclimated to the grass-fed flavor, I can actually really appreciate that the beef has its own natural flavor.
And you're saying grain-fed cows from whose meat we eat taste different, and the grain affects the flavor. It's less meaty.
The grass actually has a greater effect of flavor. You actually have a flavor where, in my opinion, when I have a grass-fed anything, I can just put salt and pepper on a steak and it stands for itself. Whereas on a grain-fed, I always feel like when I go to a restaurant, it needs a sauce or it needs something to go with it to add flavor to it.
Well, what happens? Just explain to my listener what happens to the meat. You're saying that somehow, if a cow eats grains, it changes his body. You talked about the marbling. Sure. What happens, if you can explain that, between when the cow eats the grains and how is grass different? What changes in the meat, and how does that affect the consumer in the end? You say it affects allergies.
Well,
may cause arthritis.
I'm not
how does that work?
I'm not a scientist or agriculture, but I do know enough that I can give you a little bit of stuff to chew on about that. So when an animal, when a cow in particular eats grass, it's got 4 stomachs and it chews its cud, and its stomach knows how to digest that grass. It goes through a certain process, and it's natural diet, so it's really healthy for them. And cows, just like we do, have bacteria in our guts. There's good bacteria, like known as probiotics, and there's bad bacteria, which we don't want. All of us have things like E. coli and salmonella in our guts right now. The problem is control, because then it's when you get sick. So if you do consume something like, for example, with salmonella, and you've already got a bunch of bad bacteria, you're going to get sick. You're going to have a problem. So cows, when they get grain, that is something that is not natural to their diet. So they actually, the medical term is gut dysbiosis, and it just
creates gut dysbiosis.
Yes, I think that's how you say it. But it creates a condition in their guts that is really not optimal or healthy. Just like it's not optimal or healthy for us to consume like processed foods and things like that as well. It affects our gut bacteria. So when we consume an animal, or when we make the choice to choose grass-finished beef, the benefits that we get is that an animal on grass has been pastured. So that means they've had exercise, they've had access to sunshine, they're eating their natural diet. It also means that output, the meat that we get to eat, is higher in CLAs, which is preventative to cancer. It's higher in vitamin A's, vitamin D's, linoleic acid, omega-3s, things that you can't get from a conventionally fed cow. So it really does impact our bodies, not necessarily short term, but often long term.
Well, Michelle Reneau, my listener, he's interested in what you're saying. I think he's sympathetic, but he's not convinced that it's worth the extra money. Do Americans spend enough on their diets, or are we somehow in our expenditures for food, are we somehow being subsidized and spending less somehow than we ought? And is that subsidy effectively caused by industrial agriculture? You're on the other side of the argument. You're not industrial agriculture, so your prices are higher. Talk about that. Well, I guess to make the point, to make the question clearer, Michelle Reneau, is it worth paying more if there are these benefits? And should my listener, who leaves to his wife, leaves to the love of his life, these questions about the table, what should he be saying to her? How should he be encouraging her to maybe move more in the direction of a more natural, healthier fare?
Well, as a woman who also has a very reasonable husband, I will say that for men, I and even women, but more so for men, I know that you want to know, what is this going to save me time, or is it going to save me money? Well, what Weekly Fig does is we actually allow you to shop online, and then create an opportunity for you to have this delivered to your home. So it's going to save your wife time, which is going to make a really happier wife, and it's going to make a wife who's going to have time to sit down at the end of the day and enjoy her evening and be able to do some things that maybe she enjoys. And then also, you missed my train of thought there.
the man wants to save money, or he wants convenience. He's not too concerned about the substance of the food. He just wants it to be there. He wants to save money. He wants to be good, and his beloved is taking care of it.
So yes, but the other thing
she's afraid of spending more money.
Well, but you know what? Tennessee is actually known as top 5 of the worst health. We have the worst health, top 5 in the U.S. And we can make that change by choosing local foods, because our farmers that are growing food locally care about their product and what they're putting into it. And by changing what we put into our mouth, we can change the output of our healthcare costs. We can't expect to eat food from the grocery store that is raised conventionally in not good conditions, sprayed with a heavy amount of chemicals, and expect to be healthy 50, 60 years down the road, or for our children to be healthy. We have an epidemic of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and all these things. And quite frankly, while we don't know all the things that go into it, we do know food is a huge contributor, and we need to teach our families, allow your wife to have the opportunity to make a decision that she will feel good about, feeding her family good, wholesome, healthy food that comes from the local economy. So not only is she going to feel about feeding her kids organic food that's better than organic, quite frankly, because our produce farmers, like our Mennonite guys, don't even use any chemicals at all. USDA organic actually sprayed a ton of chemicals. They are just approved chemicals.
Wait, back up. USDA organic means what?
It means nothing, actually.
Why not?
Well, the USDA sets rules that still allow farmers to use chemicals. So these chemicals are still heavily sprayed on a regular basis. They're just approved chemicals. And I was actually speaking with a farmer not that long ago who was telling me when she was researching chemicals for her organic farm here locally, she found out that one of the chemicals used to be approved for conventional use and now was approved for organic use. Yeah. In my opinion, the USDA organic label has really just...
But your farmers, you go ahead, finish the sentence.
Well, it's
not meaningful.
It's not meaningful.
It's just gibberish. Well, your farmers, though, who supply Weekly Fig at weeklyfig.com, they probably are too small, and can't claim the use of the word organic.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Is that true? They're all effectively organic, but they can't say they're organic. They can't advertise that they are organic, Michelle Reneau.
Correct. They're actually what we call sustainable. They actually have sustainable practices where they're actually putting nutrients back in the soil, and crop rotation, and doing things to make pest resistant naturally versus using synthetic chemicals. And the food is healthier because they are adding those minerals and nutrients back into the soil. You're not going to get a farmer who cares that much in a larger setting. Not that I don't want to say that these large factory farms are bad. We need those too, because in the off season in Chattanooga, you're going to want other things that you can't get locally. But we want to personally encourage people to consume more local foods when they're in season, because they are healthier for you.
And what's in season right now, Michelle?
Everything you see right here is in season. A lot of our farmers have...
okay, just say what I'm holding up here.
Okay, we have onions. Onions are a great storage crop. So a lot of the onions are pulled out of the ground and they get to dry. So we'll have those for a few more weeks. We have local apples from Wheeler Orchard. We've got several varieties from Wheeler. We have this beautiful Mutsu apple, which is a bright green. It kind of looks like a Golden Delicious cross. Granny Smith. It's got a lovely tart flavor. It makes a great apple pie filling. We also have Gala apples, which is your common everyday apple. And they also have Jonah Golds and Empires in stock right now. We've got cherry tomatoes. You have never tasted a cherry tomato until you have had a local cherry tomato. You should try one of those.
And say something about the farmer from whose hands these came.
Yeah. We have several farmers that actually do cherry tomatoes. Santa Farm in Alabama, as well as our Mennonite farmers, do these. We have a variety of farmers each year that kind of come in with different things. But these are heirloom. You see there's a couple in here that are yellow, and then we've got these gorgeous purple Cherokee ones with the purple top. I actually had somebody tell me they thought something was wrong with the tomato when they saw this. We've got these different potatoes. There's all kind of
I'm holding them up here for our Facebook viewer on Nooga Radio, if you want to tune in there.
Yeah, there's we have red potatoes, yellow potatoes, white potatoes, purple potatoes, sweet potatoes. There's a variety of potatoes here. When you go to the grocery store, you're buying potatoes from who knows where. We've got a ton of potatoes growing right in our community where we can be supporting local farmers.
Are these farmers who are your suppliers at Weekly Fig, are they all family people, Michelle, or are they retirees? Are they students? What kind of how would you characterize
It's
them?
probably somewhat a blend. Most of them are families and somewhat. We have one gentleman who is somewhat retired, but he does grow 5 items every year. That is what just grows really well on his farm. But mostly it is family farmers.
And are these farms that give a living for their for the people who work them, or are these just sort of side gigs for people who work in insurance during the day?
Yeah, well, we have some who do both. So Sandabama, Windy Hill Farm, where the onions came from, and the Mennonite guys, and like Signal Mountain Farm, and some of these farms, this is their full-time job. We have a lot of farmers though who do like meat, and they are part-time.
Now, what am I holding in my hand?
It's okra.
Okra. Okay, here's some okra, organic, maybe not organic, but sustainably grown local okra from Michelle Reneau. She is the co-founder of Weekly Fig. It's at weeklyfig.com. And we want to hear a bit more about local economy in the food sector. The food sector is, I would say, the leading sector for the freedom movement in this country. So don't blow it off. If you care about liberty, you care about food freedom, care about food freedom first. David Tulis with Michelle Reneau. Hang on.
3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM